Thank you so much, Kak Farah. Okay, so Selamat Sejahtera Malaysia. I'm Sanglisha Kunasegaran, and today we have a very special guest who is Dr. Vadsala Bhaskaran. She is a doctor who is a Malaysian and she is currently serving the UK, and she's a specialist in respiratory medicine. So we will just wait for her for a little while. Thank you, Kavara. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. Hi, Ash. Hi, Zimam Rosli.
Hi.
Okay, so Selamat Sejahtera Malaysia. I'm Sangisha Kunasegaran, and today we are very fortunate to have a very special guest who is Dr. Vadsala Bhaskaran. She's a doctor who is a Malaysian and she is currently serving the UK, and she's a specialist in respiratory medicine. So, hi, Dr. Vadsala, how are you?
I'm very good, thank you. And thank you very much for having me here.
Thank you too. Okay, so tell us about your journey.
Okay, so you've given a great introduction. That's where I've ended. It's been a very long journey to reach where I am today. And I think it'd be useful to sort of go back in time and start from where I was born. So I was born in a little place, Kuantan, Pahang. Father was in the army, mom, housewife. We then moved to Sungai Besi, stayed there during my first sort of kindergarten years until 6, then went to Sri Sedang in Selangor. And that's probably the place that is close to heart because that's where I grew up all the way until college. And I think the turning point in my life was probably at the age of 17, getting good grades in SPM and getting a scholarship. That was
Wow.
probably the most important and life-changing event for me. After which I went to Sunway College under the scholarship and landed here in the UK to do medicine.
Wow. You have really studied so hard and you came right to the point where becoming a doctor, and especially it's not easy getting a scholarship.
Yeah, I think I knew that the only way forward, or rather to get out of where I was, almost a ticket out, was a scholarship. So my background, family-wise, as mentioned, so dad was in the army, mom a housewife. So financial constraints was huge. I'm one of 4 kids, so I'm number 3 out of 4. And I saw how hard it was for my first 2 siblings to secure a loan to go to university. So I think the secondary school part was very crucial. I knew there was only one way out: study hard, get good grades, somehow secure a scholarship. And I was very, very blessed to have gotten the scholarship. Like you say, I think it was very difficult, very challenging, but yeah, I'm very grateful.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so back on today's topic, since we are discussing about women and the challenges they face, especially when it comes to juggling between family and career life. So here's a question. How did you manage to juggle between your family life and career, especially during the pandemic, being a frontliner?
I'd be lying if I said it was easy. It was incredibly difficult. So yeah, I'm married to an ENT surgeon, and I have a 5-year-old son. Now he's 5. So when the pandemic started, he just turned 4. And in terms of where I am with my career, so I've done 2 years of sort of, I guess if you compare it with Malaysia, I've done the foundation training here, which is the early years in sort of housemanship, and then MO equivalent of 2 years, after which we apply for specialist training. So I'm in specialist training for respiratory medicine. And here in the UK, it's 5 years of training. Family life, so let's segregate. This is before the pandemic. So a couple of years of doing my specialist training, I had Rohan, my son, and went back into full-time training, and it was absolutely horrendous. So I was on a full on-call rota. So you do nights, you do on-calls on the weekends. Likewise, my husband Sam, he was also on the same rota. And we don't have any help. So it's just us, 3 of us, managing everything with, of course, sending to childminder or nursery to cover during our working hours. It was incredibly difficult. So at that point, at the point when I realized actually this is taking a toll on us as a couple, and being able to train in medicine requires a lot of time and a lot of effort. So at that point, I knew that I needed a break, whatever that break meant. So at that point, I think I was in the right place at the right time. There was an opportunity to do a PhD, and quite a lot of us in respiratory medicine do take on a further degree, and in the way of either a master's or a PhD. And I was very fortunate to have met this professor who laid out all the projects that was available. And it was almost no-brainer. It was an amazing opportunity, a fully funded job with an amazing person who is very, very good. And it was in the field of pneumonia. So very relevant to COVID when we come to talk about that in a moment. So I took that opportunity and came out of my program to do the PhD, which was 3 years. That gave me a lot of flexibility. So when we talk about medicine, we have a lot of shifts. When you talk about a PhD journey, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So it's a long 3 years journey. There's lots of ups and downs, but it gave me a lot of flexibility. So I was able to spend a lot of time with Rohan, spend a lot of time doing things that I like, but at the same time, I was able to do the PhD pretty much anytime, whether it was at 7 o'clock in the morning or at night after he's gone to bed. So there was a lot of flexibility, and that helped. At the point when pandemic hit, I was in my research, and just to set the scene. So we were hearing this news from China coming that, there's this virus in Wuhan, it's spreading. In January, things started coming down to UK, so we had a few cases. At one point, so my PhD should have finished last year, so 2020 in August. The 3 year journey should have finished, and then I should have transitioned back to completing my training. In February, sitting in an office with my colleague, we were going through the BBC news. We were like, what are the chances for this virus to come and hit us really bad, such that, something, the hospital's filled with, COVID virus or whatever. We're like, come on, that's unlikely.
Yeah, we didn't expect that it will actually cross the country itself and come to other countries.
Exactly. So we had a few cases, but I think my colleague is very good at sort of painting the worst case scenario. So there we were trying to do, we were doing our own stuff with research. And she was like, but what's the chances, but, what if it really hits really badly? And I was like, well, if it's really that bad, of course, we have to stop our research and go and help. But come on, that's not going to happen. We just laughed it off. And that was mid-February. And then early March, the cases within a week of less than 50 cases rose quite a lot to about 300 cases within a week by the end of that week. And then it hit us quite hard. We were like, actually, you know what? There's a real possibility that we need to pause our research. Most departments run at almost a backbone of staff. So when you have an influx, or you have a lot of cases coming in at high numbers, you are stretching the system. So you do need external people coming into the department to be able to help. And respiratory was completely snowed under. So it was no brainer. So quite a lot of us in research had to pause research, come back and help our respiratory department to be able to run. And it wasn't easy. So it wasn't as easy as, flick the fingers, stop research, come back. On our end, we had to submit lots of documents to the university, to our training program director, back to clinical post consultants. So there's lots of, it wasn't
multitasking.
Yeah, so it wasn't as easy as saying, yeah, I'm coming to help, let me help you. It was, I'm coming to help, but I need to jump all these hoops to be able to come back and help. And we did all of that. So a lot of us, out of goodwill, literally stopped our research. And university was very, very proactive. They said, whatever time you lose by going back and helping your respective departments, it will all be reimbursed to you at a later date with no cost, no extra cost. So all of that worked kind of fine. Then it comes to what you do with your life. Lots of planning. So a week before, after I got all the approval, which was all expedited, within a couple of weeks, everything was expedited, and I was ready to go back to clinicals end of March. But then you then have to look at, okay, actually it's a total lockdown. The government was proactive in allowing key workers' kids to be still looked after by respective people. So it could be either childminders or nurseries or schools were open only for key workers' children. So that meant we could still go to work. And we knew that our child was in safe hands and we didn't have to worry about him. But a lot of things changed. So we almost prepared a standard operating procedure, a SOP for ourselves to say, okay, we are stepping out of the house. When we come back, we are stripping all our clothes right at the front door on the side. Nothing comes back in. Go straight, wash your hands, go and shower, do whatever that is necessary. So everything needed to be protocolized, even at home. And you have a system in place because Sam was also being ENT. There was a lot of exposure in the procedures that he did. Me, without a doubt, respiratory. So I was seeing all the COVID positive cases. And very early on, we had to educate Rohan, who was then only 4, to say, look, it's a very dangerous place. So if I went to work, I changed and came back in my home clothes, I would still not touch him. So there was a lot of things. If I went to nursery, I would maintain the distance with him to say, he understood quite early on to say, okay, normally you would pick him up and go, yeah, I'm back. How are you? How was your day? Now I'm back.
Yeah, and that's what children will expect also. Immediately come and hug their parents once they see them.
He learned very early on to maintain not 2 meters distance, but maintain a distance so that he doesn't touch me, because I am loaded with virus, if anything, or covered with any germs. So he knew early on, and that was a very interesting transition. It was quite hard sinking moment as well. You go and pick up and you want to hug, but you can't, and you're like, okay, that's fine. He learned early, quite fast. So he would come back in the house. He knew what to do himself as well, whilst we went to shower, what he should do at that time. It was a huge, huge amount of learning. But to make things work, what we did as a couple was communicate. We had to communicate and lay down, these are our priorities. We batch cooked a lot because ignoring the pandemic, we could come back from work, we could cook, we could take our times. Sam is very good. So he equally cooks as much as I do. He equally does the housework as I do. So in terms of making things work, to answer your question, how did we juggle between family and career, is jointly sorting out everything that we needed for the family. So we batch cooked a lot. So when it came to Saturday, Sunday, we would batch cook, freeze it. That was the only way to do it. That was our compromise, not able to necessarily eat fresh food because the days were long. We were tired with our PPEs and we had also skin breaks. And it was just quite nasty. And quite in the early phase, the first wave of the pandemic, we didn't really have proper PPEs. We were wearing surgical masks, seeing COVID patients were coughing, spluttering, but we maintained good hand hygiene. We maintained other things that helped us in the first wave compared to what we have now, which is proper PPE, proper protocol on what to do with patients. Things have moved on remarkably a lot.
Okay. Yeah, especially like coming back to what you said previously, like you and Dr. Sam have actually like really worked together a lot, especially as a couple. Because I noticed like especially in Malaysia, we tend to see like some girls, especially once the moment they are already married, they tend to like not be so active in career, or they will even stop their career just to be fully committed to their family. So what is your opinion on that?
It's a very interesting point. I think many of us, when it comes to family, so even myself, so I'm very attached to Rohan, and you can say in many ways, why did I, take a break almost at that time? And it was difficult because I realized that just going back when we recently had Rohan, it was so difficult to even see each other. So Sam and I were not able to even see each other because if this weekend I'm on call, he would be on baby duty. And if next weekend he's on call, I would be on baby duty. So we just barely saw each other. And we knew that if this carried on, it's just going to bring us apart.
Okay.
But equally, Sam and I met each other in med school. And I think very early on, I knew that I would never get along with anyone who would stop or hinder my dreams, my ambitions. I am very strong-minded. I'm very, if I say I'm going to do this, I will do this at any cost. And I don't allow anyone to come and tell me otherwise. So to go back to some people stopping work, well, I think there's quite a lot of us here who take a break from career to
Okay.
spend the time with the child and to build the bond in the first couple of years. And I think that's fine, if that's what you want to do. But don't park your dreams aside and never revisit that. So if you're taking a break for your family and that's what you want to do, that gives you joy, that gives you happiness, you are contented with that, by all means. But if you have a dream and you've parked the dream aside to allow your family life to go ahead, revisit that dream. Don't let it disappear. And at any point, if you think, actually, if I want to achieve the dream, I need X, Y, and Z. Make the X, Y, and Z work and talk to your other half. There is no such thing as you need to always be the person compromising or giving in any relationship. It has to
True.
be both ways. It has to be one person sacrificing at the cost of the other and vice versa. It has to work both ways. You can't just be the person sacrifices all the time, unless that is really what you want to do and that is what you believe in. Then that's your opinion. This is my opinion. You may not agree with that.
That is very true. Because I noticed like some girls, especially like those who I know, even those who are way older who are already married, they just feel that okay, the moment they get married, then their husband will start asking things to them like, oh, okay, who's going to take care of the children? Who is going to look after the house? I need to earn money. So if both are going to earn money and also it's going to be difficult. So they really expect like, especially the girls to really sacrifice their dream. And I've also come across where a friend of mine, she told me that her father in fact told her that, oh, what's the point, you study so much and all, but then in the end of the day you have to take care of the family, you have to take care of the household duties, you have to cook in the kitchen. So there's no point of you really studying that hard and all, because in the end of the day you have to settle down. So it's actually quite sad.
So I think, Nisha, that's very interesting because I think personally I've been extremely lucky being brought up by my parents. At no point did my father or mother turn to me and say, "You're a girl. This is what you need to do," these are your responsibilities. So I have two brothers, and out of four of us, if anything, my oldest brother is the most hardworking soul. If I go back in time, two decades ago, he would be the one who would be mopping the floor, helping mom to cook, hang clothes or house chores. There was no such thing that these are these are the things that a boy should do, these are the things that girls should do. There was no such thing. And on our, going back to financial constraints and how I grew up, so we went on annual trips to Port Dickson. And when we did, father would, there was no such thing that I'm the man of the house, you are the woman, you have to do everything. There was no such thing. Father would step in and in fact tell mom, this is, this is your break. You're a housewife. You've done so much during the year. This is your break. So she can put her feet up, which she struggles to, but she tries to. And father will sit down in the kitchen and cook for all of us during that holiday, that week, 1 week, 10 days. So I must say I was spoiled. I was spoiled not seeing this part of gender stereotypes of the do's and don'ts, what women should do. There was no such thing. But as I grew up and as I migrated here as well, and like you say, it happens everywhere, and it's very sad. And I think that should never happen. Whether you're a girl or a boy, you should be allowed to reach your maximum potential, your dreams, without anybody telling you that you can't. There's no such thing. There's no such thing that women should be in the kitchen. There's no such thing that women should do the housework. No such thing as women should be looking after kids. No, I think, if you want to get married, that's your choice. If you want to have kids, that's your choice as husband and wife. And there's no such thing as my husband helps me to do housework. No. We do housework together as a family. And historically, I used to say my father helps my mother. Actually, he was doing his job. His side as a husband, he was doing his fair share. And I think that's quite an important point to make. A lot of people say, oh, my other half is great. He helps me at this point and that point. You need to work as a unit, whatever it is. It's your choice to get married and have kids. So make it work.
True, very true. So it's like not really necessary that, because one thing a very beautiful thing which you've actually brought up is that, your parents actually made sure that both boys and the girls were treated equally. There was no gender stereotype and all, like usually what we see in Asian families. Those who are the sons, they tend to spoil them a little bit. They don't really force them to do all the housework. But then when it comes to girls, we are from very young, we are really trained to do all the housework and all. So one thing very beautiful that I've noticed from what you said is that your parents really made sure that both were treated equally. And I really strongly feel that every parent actually should do the same thing and bring up their boys also in the same way.
Absolutely agree.
Wow, okay, that's really, really nice. Okay, so another question. What challenges have you faced as a female when growing up?
Do you know, I really struggled with that question purely because of what I just said, because I think I've been spoiled to do what I want. I've always been quite strong-headed. So I voice out my opinion if I think something's not right. And in the family, if I wanted to do something, of course, within reason, mom or dad have never said, no, you can't do that because you're a girl. No, they've never said that. So if I wanted to go for any competitions, it was not a problem. If I wanted, so at the age of 10, I was went into this Aloha mental arithmetic stuff, and there was an opportunity to go to China to represent the country. And I looked thinking about what could have happened. Mom and dad both said, go. Great opportunity. There's at no point did they turn back and say, you're a girl, or, I don't think you should go to, a different country or whatever. But actually, I thought about that question quite hard. And I think there are some incidences, there are some points where people have made comments to mom. So going back on financial constraints and how, just thinking forward. So I was in Form 5, mother was having this just a random chat with a tuition teacher who said, oh, Vadsala is very bright. What are your plans for future? So she said something along the lines of, oh, we don't know, we don't have much money, but she seems interested in science and maths. Maybe doctoring is something that she might want to consider. And the comments that passed was, oh, that might require a lot of money, isn't it? And then you've already said you don't have much. You probably need at least 150 or 200K to, a lot of people at that time were going to Russia, and it's like, maybe not, and especially being a girl, do you really want her to do that? Thinking forward about family life. So there were comments. There were comments that were passed to mom. Mom, of course, didn't know I could hear the conversation. So a few neighbors, a few friends, my own tuition teacher who knew that I was bright said that maybe that's not the right thing. Maybe that's not what she needs to do. She could choose something else. But at no point mom or dad told me no. They were not in that opinion, and they were very open. They were very open to any ideas. So when we applied for the scholarship, the truth is, I think at that point, if I had any courses, be it law, engineering, or any other courses that came through the post, I would have taken it, because I just didn't want to burden my parents. It happened to be that medicine was the choice, that my first choice, and I got my first choice. So thanks to God that came through the post. But the truth is, I would have done anything at that point. But it's interesting how people pass comments to you, but it shouldn't let you down.
Correct. Like we tend to, like even I've had friends who, even their relatives also, they tend to go and tell to the parents that, oh, okay, like, she's a girl, so why you want to spend that extra money? But then when it comes to a boy, to their son, they don't actually question all that. And then like every single thing also, like they tend to really, rather than appreciating the girl itself in their achievements and all, they tend to look at all the bad side of it, or whatever, like little negative things they tend to say about the girl, which actually like it kind of like discriminates her. So actually, like when a parent is really like strong in what they truly believe that their daughter deserves, then it can really bring her up. So what is your opinion on that?
Oh, definitely. I think I'm probably the product of what you just said. So I think when parents believe in you as a child, like whatever you can do, you will be able to do it. And positive encouragement it's extremely valuable, isn't it? It can bring you anywhere. And I think both mom and dad didn't stop my dreams at any point. I think when that scholarship came to our front door, they were like, yeah, go, and they did everything within their ability for me to be able to come here. And they were very strong, and as a result, I think I'm very strong as a result of that. So yeah, you're absolutely right. I think parents need to believe in their child for them to prosper. Definitely.
Wow, that's good. Okay, so next question. In your opinion, does gender stereotypes or discrimination hinder a woman's achievement?
I think it's a leading question, is the answer is going to be yes to that. And I think we have touched upon that during this conversation as well. So I think at no point you should stereotype this is what a woman should do, and this is what a girl should do, and this is what a boy should do. No, that should never come into any conversation. Not now, not in 21st century. Maybe historically there were very different times where there were very clear-cut responsibilities because of how things were, if you'd like, so the labor jobs were what men did, and women were at home managing home. That's not what we are in now. Women should be allowed to choose and do whatever they want, just like men do, and vice versa. There should never be a question. But having said that, so I was talking to Sam about this question, and I was like, what do you think? And he was like, actually, like it or not, there are a lot of times where you turn up and it's ingrained by, I don't know, decades of people stereotyping this is how it's meant to be. So if I walk to the ward, despite a stethoscope around my neck, this is before pandemic, more often than not, people would just call nurse, blah, 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 They just assume you're a woman, you should be a nurse. Whereas Sam has never been called nurse. because it's an assumption. Oh, the man is the doctor, the woman is the nurse. So that, again, I would be lying if it doesn't exist. In current times, it exists. It shouldn't. And I think at every opportunity, if that is happening, we should be vocal and pointing out this really shouldn't be happening in the nicest possible way.
Yeah, true. Because I've also come across where someone actually asked my mom, in fact, like, okay, what does Nisha plan of doing after her studies and all? So then, okay, then mom explained, okay, she's studying this and that and all. Then after that, that person actually questioned, like, oh, okay, journalism, news reporter, politics, it's not suitable for a girl, especially. So that person, in fact, advised me, like, oh, don't want Lanisha, don't go into politics. It's not really proper. It's not okay for a girl. So I just felt like, okay. So what is your opinion? Like, especially when it comes to this kind of careers where usually people look at it like, oh, it's male dominated kind of careers, but then about women going into them, should women actually really challenge themselves and like go beyond their boundaries to achieve what they really want rather than looking at it and like, oh, okay, what people will say, and then listen to what others say that, oh, it's more suitable for a male rather than a female. So what is your opinion on that?
I think if you want to do something, do it. Okay, but in any case, whether it's career or options in life, as long as you have taken the time to consider the pros and cons, you are prepared. If you can't go in anything blindly. As long as you know what are the repercussions. If I take this, what are the challenges that I might face? Am I ready to face these challenges, or even not ready? Do I have a plan of action if this happens to me when I take this job? If the answer is yes, go for it. If the answer is, oh, maybe not, I don't think I have the courage to deal with this. Maybe this is not what I want to do. What are my alternative career paths or choices? Then that should be it. So I think as long as you, in your mind, you have a dream, you have options of, or even knowing what are the repercussions when when you join a certain thing, then nobody should tell you what to do. You should go for it. There are a lot of people who have, preconceived ideas of, no, you shouldn't do this because you're a woman. There's, like medicine, there were barely any women 50 years ago. Whereas now, if you see in medicine, 2/3 of medical students are women, are girls.
Okay.
But there are lots of things to change. So as much as there are a lot of women going into medicine, when you see at the leadership level, so the highest position, men still dominate. So everything that you've touched upon up to this point of women dropping out because they want to manage their family, that's more important, or choices that women make at each stage are leading to the fact that when you look at the highest point of leadership, men are still there. So there has to be some change in the way we think, in the way we choose. But again, it's options. What makes you happy as an individual? And again, it might not be the right thing for you. If you feel like that's not me, I don't want to do it, that's fine. But if you want to do something and someone is not allowing you to do that, that's not fine.
So courage is key in this matter.
Definitely.
Okay, so another question is, who do you look up to as a role model?
I have a few.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say one person per se. I think there are different role models for different situations.
Okay.
I think mom, without a doubt, is my first role model because I grew up watching her. So she's a housewife, but a very versatile housewife. And I keep coming back to the fact of how I firsthand watched the difficulties we had financially. My father was in the army, then he retired, he went to a private company, he was working in KL. We were in Serdang, so father used to leave first thing in the morning. We didn't see him when he left. He would go in his motorbike, so he had his own difficulties of getting through KL traffic, and he would come back late in the evening, really tired. So mom had to manage everything herself. 4 kids, making sure everyone were fed, went to school, came back, did their, respective stuff. So she was very, very, very good at multitasking, very good making sure all of us knew what we were doing. None of us felt abandoned. And as a mother now, I can look back and I think that my appreciation towards her has just gone beyond words, because I've got 1 kid and the difficulties of raising 1 kid is is there. And when I look at how in the world did she manage 4 kids? Yeah, she was a housewife, but actually housewife is a lot more difficult. She was cooking, she was cleaning, she didn't have any other help. We didn't have, the luxury of grandparents staying with us to look after us or help mom and dad. She did everything herself. And at a point when finance was really, really tight, she was innovative. And yes, she was at home. How else can she contribute to the finance rather than father being the sole breadwinner? So she started looking after kids. She started with 1, 2, and at one point we probably had 4 kids at home, in addition to us at home. So there was, she just knew what to do when she was stuck. And as a couple, father and mother worked together so well in trying to solve problems. So mom is definitely primary role model. And as I grew up, and as mentioned earlier, the reason I never saw much challenges as a female is because of my father being an amazing role model. And I knew I couldn't accept anyone as my husband who's less than my dad's qualities. Respect for women. He never drank any alcohol, 1 dot, never smoked. And, sharing responsibility as a married couple was phenomenal. And the fact that he gave mom a break I call it a break because she worked pretty much the
so sweet.
And I think men of his age, if you'd like, because I realized this when I was much older, when I saw my uncles who couldn't even mix a cup of tea or coffee. They
exactly.
And then I realized, but my dad can do that. Why can't you? Oh, they can't even cook an egg. They can't make a drink. They expect the women to do it, but that's a different age group. But my father was amazing. So for that reason, I never saw it until I was much older. And then when I started observing people and how people are, so some families, like you say, women had a certain responsibility. They may be working, but they are expected to do everything in the kitchen. They're expected to do all the housework. Or when you're having a meal, the men sat on the table, the women were, away. That was not acceptable, if you ask me. And that was not something we practiced. So father's a huge, huge role model. And to talk about career, so when I came here, I started seeing my consultants working as a junior doctor and seeing the women in medicine was eye-opening. So in particular, there are 2 of them who I really, really respect, both married with 2 kids. The way they are with work, very meticulous, very good, very, but timekeeping and making sure the juniors are all looked after as a team, as well as being able to manage their kids at home. And they share what they do with their kids and everything. Just makes you think. And at that time, I was not married yet. So I was like, I can do this. I want to be like you. I want to be able to juggle both of them and be able to do both of them well. Then my battery might be running a bit low, but that's fine.
Yeah, we got it's almost going to be 8 already.
So yeah, I think role models, mom, dad, and I've got a couple of clinicians who I really, really look up to.
Okay. One thing nice is that even your parents, I don't think they even like nowadays parents, even nowadays also from those days and nowadays, there are like some who they give more privileges to the daughters, sorry, to the sons compared to the daughters. Like I've come across someone who also said that, oh, okay, like her father believes that for driving license, like it's much better to give it to their sons compared to a girl. So in the end, like she and her sisters, they had to go and buy their own driving license and they have to do things on their own. So rather than, but then she did felt like, oh, it's quite sad because like the sons, they got the privilege of getting driving license, and then even for education wise also they gave more attention. The girls had to struggle on their own. So it's really nice that actually your parents, they
So my
don't do that at
father
all.
was in the army, so he was very strict. He said 17, you finish your SPM. This is the same rule that applied for all four of us. He said, I'm not in a position to be giving you money for all of this. You need to learn to be independent. Go and find a job yourself, find the funding yourself, and learn how to drive yourself. So all four of us, when we finished our SPM, waiting for that period of, either going to university or college or whatever, we all went enrolled into our respective jobs. So I was a cashier in this little supermarket called Taikali in Sri Sundam for that couple of
Okay.
months. So I got my relevant funding and I funded myself for my driving. So father was very good at making sure we are independent, and he taught us the skills. And time and again, he would remind how difficult it was for him growing up, being one of 9 or 10 siblings, I believe, and how difficult it was for him to go through the steps, get the education that he needed in order to be where he was. So that reminder was very important. And it's very good to be reminded of your roots. I think wherever you go, whatever you do, uh, having that values, those roots are very, very important. So yeah, I strongly disagree with treating your boy kids and girl kids differently. I think they should all be treated the same.
Yeah, very, very true. Okay, so next question is, what advice will you give to our female audience tonight?
Ooh, right. So the one thing that comes close to heart is so I read a lot of medical books. Anything outside medicine to get me to read a book is very, very, very difficult. But if there's one thing that I would tell, take the chance to read the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne. If you haven't already read it, it's an amazing book. One of the quotes, I took it down to just share. So it says that the great secret of life is the law of attraction. And the law of attraction can also be called the law of creation. So in other words, life is not happening to you. You are creating your life. Okay? So what you think is what you create. What you feel is what you attract. What you imagine is what you become. You know that the sky is the limit. So set your goal, work towards it. Don't let anyone or anything come in the way. You design your life and write your own story.
Wow, that is a very, very, yeah, it's a very good advice, especially for me also. Thank you so, so much, Dr. Vatsala, for your time today. You have definitely inspired all of us, especially me, who is still like growing up, and we have a lot more to go, especially like I got to learn so much, especially when it comes to marriage and then juggling between career and family. So this is like a real big advice, especially for me, to not like compromise anything also in my life and to really go forward. Thank you so, so much, Dr. Vatsala, for your time with us today.
You're most welcome. And Nisha, you've done absolutely brilliantly. And you've come this far being the finalist of Miss World Malaysia. We are all very, very, very proud of you, and best wishes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Vatsala. Okay, so thank you everyone for attending today. So we'll be ending the live now. Thank you so much. Stay safe and
Bye.
take care, everyone. Okay, bye bye. Thank you, doctor.